Hello, my name's Stuart Blakemore and I'm a funeral celebrant. I help families create and deliver amazing funeral services for their loved ones. Now, people don't like to talk about funerals and death. It's not nice, I get that. But it's going to be weird if you don't at some stage in your life have to deal with one or two of them. So I'm going to give you 5 tips to help if you're arranging a funeral. Tip number 1. Plan your own. Now, you've made a will, right? If you haven't, then stop watching this blatant piece of self-promotion, because you've got to go make a will right now. Okay, so if you're still with me, then you've already made a will. What better present to give your loved ones than a fully prepared funeral plan, so they don't have any of the stress of figuring out what you wanted for your final send-off. Write out what you want, put it in an envelope, give it to the same lawyer who looks after your will, and ask him to keep it with your will. You can go a stage further too. Go and visit a funeral director, work out your plan, maybe even get a celebrant like me involved to write the service and the eulogy, and then work out a payment plan to cover the costs. Then, you can just drop it into conversation over Christmas dinner and say, "Oh yeah, by the way, when I die, just call the guys down at Boxham and Burnham and they'll know what to do. And it's all paid for, so happy Christmas, God bless us everyone, and pass the sprouts please." Tip number 2. Swap funerals with a friend. So that covers your funeral, but what about other people's? Most of us have to handle the funeral of a parent at some stage in our lives, and that can be tough. So here's a little plan that might help. Do a deal with your best buddy that you'll take on arranging their parents' funerals, and he or she will do the same for yours. Now, this may seem an odd arrangement, but what you're actually doing here is taking the emotional element out of the business side of arranging a funeral. When you're dealing with funeral arrangements for a loved one and someone tells you it's going to cost you £700 for the coffin, you don't feel in the kind of mood to say, "How much? Are you kidding me?" and then shop around on the internet for easycoffin.com or whatever. Now, this is because you're probably concerned about the emotional strain on yourself and those around you, and you just want the decision to be over. But also, you don't want to look cheap around a funeral director in their swanky office and their lovely balm-infused hankies and their faint smell of lavender. Your buddy, on the other hand, will not have any qualms with any of these issues, and they can be dispassionate, hard-nosed and downright cutthroat on your behalf and negotiate a better deal for you. Tip number 3. Don't do it yourself. In this world of YouTube, you might be thinking that you can record and perform your own eulogy and it'll be really cool. Well, let me tell you, it won't be. It will be creepy and, more than likely, deeply upsetting for your family. If you must leave messages from beyond the grave, then there are websites where you can set up messages to be sent to your loved ones on significant dates. But even then, think long and hard about how that's going to go down on your daughter's 50th birthday as she opens an email from you and then starts thinking, "Well, who the hell did we cremate then?" Feel free to write your own eulogy, but don't expect it to be delivered exactly as you intended, and don't do it in the first person. Much better is start now and write a little life story for your family to read. You'll be amazed how helpful that is, and especially if your family don't know much about your childhood. Let them know your story, and then they can celebrate it. Tip number 4, and brace yourself. Your funeral isn't really about you. Well, first of all, to all intents and purposes, you won't be there, will you? Sure, the content is about you, but the point of a funeral is for everyone else to say goodbye to you and to process your departure. So try to bear this in mind if you're planning your own, or indeed anyone else's. Ideally, you want your family to be ready to say goodbye by the end. So if you are planning your own, think about the message you want to get across. Give your family and friends permission to say goodbye and let go. Try not to make it too sad, bizarre as that may sound. That's one of the reasons that a lot of services these days are called celebrations. Tip number 5. If you have a complicated past, consider the seating plan. In this modern world of complicated and multi-layered families, have a thought for your ex-wife or husband, or maybe both of them. Let people know if they would be welcome to attend and consider the awkwardness of the potential situation. Also, bear a thought for children from previous marriages and try, if you can, to ensure that they're included in your life story. If you're on the other side of this awkward love triangle, please also bear in mind that the funeral director, arranger and celebrant are working for the next of kin, and if that's your evil stepmother, then it's her instructions they are carrying out. So don't have a go at them. They're almost always really nice people, and if they can help, they will. So there you have it. Plan ahead, don't be afraid to talk about it, don't be an idiot, and be nice to everyone if you can. Simple guidance for planning a funeral. Oh, and one last thing. Pick a good funeral director. Ask around for recommendations. If you want, you can ask me. If I don't know one in your area, I'll certainly know another celebrant who will know who the great ones are. If you want any help or advice on planning a funeral, please do get in touch. My number and email are on your screen now. So my name's Stuart Blakemore, my company's called Memorient, and finally, have a great life, because the eulogy will be much more interesting if you do.